The Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game is one of the most strategic, intensely gratifying card games out there, rewarding players with innovative deck building, shrewd technical play, and boundless game knowledge. However, new and aspiring players still face arguably the biggest barrier to entry for competitive play, the extremely steep price points for the most powerful cards available. But what if we tried to remove that barrier? In this series, we're going to be maximizing the value of every penny at our disposal to see how well we can perform on a constrained budget. Each season, we'll be investing a baseline of $50 USD into an affordable deck core comprised of the most cost-effective singles on TCG player. For just an additional $10 per week, we'll continually expand on that core, transforming our build into the most competitive deck possible. Welcome to Rise of the Budget Duelist. Alright everybody, welcome to week number 5 of Rise of the Budget Duelist, and I can't believe it's already been over a month since we initially started the series, but I've been having a ton of fun kind of just progressing the build, improving upon it as best as I can, and just taking it to locals or just playing it against friends on a weekly basis. And hopefully you guys have been having fun at home watching as well. This is a pretty reminiscent experience to when I first started playing, you know, just picking up a deck, building it from scratch, trying to improve it with the limited pool of resources that I had, trying things, you know, by trial and error to try and improve stuff. So that's definitely a pretty realistic challenge, but it's a fun one nonetheless. So again, hopefully you guys are having fun as well. But carrying on into what we're going to be doing for this week, just as a reminder what happened last week, we didn't have locals since it was closed for the 4th of July. Therefore, I took some liberty in making some pretty interesting side deck changes, namely Shaddoll Fusion as an engine for going second. And in our one game sample size against a friend of ours, it ended up being pretty good so far, but again, that's not really too much to go off of. So I'm going to try and take again to locals this week and see what we're going to be doing. So I'm actually going to be taking a bit of a deviation from what we've been doing for the past couple of episodes, and we're actually just not going to be making any changes. We're not going to be using any of our $10 weekly budget. Instead, we're going to have it roll over into future weeks alongside the current savings that we have from our prize pool, as well as just the savings we've accumulated along the way. This will help to fund future purchases for bigger cards, just more expensive stuff to help push our build more into meta relevancy, which I think is definitely kind of the goal of the series, obviously. But we have to kind of just take these opportunities while we can, and I think that this is one of the best ways to kind of help do so, since we do want to just kind of test where our build currently stands as far as how well the main deck is running, as well as like how fluid the side deck changes are. So I think overall this will be just kind of a good sort of status report week, I guess is what we'll call this episode, right? So we're just going to go ahead and run through the list really quickly. I'm going to go to locals, and then afterwards, I'm just going to go and have a more in-depth approach to the deck as far as what cards I've been enjoying so far, things that I've kind of learned along the way. And so if you guys want a more in-depth look into the deck, feel free to stay tuned till the end of the video. But let's go ahead and just not waste any more time and look at the deck list. It hasn't changed from last week, but in case you guys want a refresher, here it is. So it's 3 copies of Tour Guide from the Underworld, 3 copies of Phoenix Rhino Warrior, 3 copies of Graph for the BAs, 3 copies of Skarm. This BA lineup really hasn't changed much at all. 3 copies of Farfa. We got the 2 copies of Seer. We have Alec, Barbar, Hcabe, and Libic for one of BAs. And then for our honorary BA/monsters, we have Absolute King Backjack, as well as the Foolish Burial. And then for the trap lineup, we got 3 copies of the Fiend Griefing. We have triple Torrential Tribute. We have 3 copies of Paleozoic Dynamiscus, 2 copies of Phoenix Wing Windblast. We have 3 copies of Compulsory Evacuation Device, and then finally 3 copies of Breakthrough Skill, rounding out the main deck at 40 cards. The extra deck right now is 2 copies of Dante, the 1 copy of Beatrice, of course. We have the Break Sword, we have Acid Golem of Destruction, Equipped Engineer, and then for links, we got Gravity Controller, Geonator Transverser, Carabini, Nightmare Phoenix, as well as Nightmare Unicorn. We have Zeroboros, Borosword Dragon, as well as the fusions in Dante Pilgrim and the El Shaddoll app clone for the Shaddoll fusion in the side deck. And then wrapping things up with said side deck, we got 3 copies of Lava Golem. We have Pankratops, as well as 2 Shaddoll monsters in Dragon, as well as Ariel. And then we have, to complement that, 3 copies of Shaddoll Fusion, followed up by 2 copies of Heavy Storm Duster, 3 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance, and then 1 copy of Imperial Order. So this is, again, just the same list that we ran the previous week, but I want to kind of have a larger sample size in terms of just a whole locals to kind of help see where things are at and what changes they need to make moving forward. But as usual, guys, if you are interested in purchasing any of these cards on TCG Player, definitely go ahead and use my TCG Player affiliate link, which you can find in the description box below. And if you really are interested in helping to support the channel and the series overall, definitely go ahead and check my Patreon as well if you guys would like to kind of help support and fund this series, which definitely is the most time-intensive series on the channel. But I've been enjoying, of course, so I appreciate you guys' support in any way, whether it be just watching the videos or liking, sharing them around, leaving a comment, stuff like that. And finally, if you guys are interested in things like, of course, custom sleeves, custom playmats, things like this awesome penguin right here, go ahead and use my Your Playmat link in the description box below as well, or you can use my affiliate code Emanon10YP for 10% off of all of your custom sleeves and your playmats. If you're interested in this design in particular, I got some comments about this, by the way. Definitely feel free to actually just message me on Discord if you guys want the image link to have this awesome penguin image. Just be sure to, if you are using your playmat, I would appreciate it if you guys use my, affiliate code along the way. But that's going to wrap it up for this deck profile section. And now let's just hop into locals without any further ado. Alrighty, guys. So this is actually going to be the locals round 2 match from last week, and this is going to be up against Sky Strikers, which is a deck that is very, very much popular, especially at the local level, due to the most recent ban list. So this is a match I think is pretty interesting to showcase off because of the fact that this does have a pretty high propensity to go into time due to the nature of both decks being especially grindy, and if you could tell by the length of this video, it definitely does go into time, just as a bit of a spoiler, but part of the length of this video is because of the in-depth discussion I have at the end of the video about the deck in general, and just about my specific thoughts on each card. So yeah, that's going to be taking up quite a bit of the time. But yeah, this matchup also is fairly lengthy and back and forth. But we do end up losing the die roll here, which doesn't end up mattering because, of course, he wants to go second. So we open up fairly decently with the Rhino plus Alec there to make Dante. And here I'm kind of considering my options because I did actually open a Phoenix Wing Windblast. So I want to make sure I have the best discard outlet that I can, because my hand currently has, I believe, a spare BA, but it's Barbar. So I could make a high value Beatrice and keep the Rhino underneath this Beatrice, which would be good, definitely. But I wanted to actually just make sure that I could, detach Rhino, send Skarm, and then search for Graph. That way it would have just kind of more value off of the Wing Blast, because right now it's not really getting me anywhere, because even if I detach Dante to add back a BA, it would just not be that good, since I didn't open up any of the super strong BAs. But I actually hit the Skarm off the Dante mill, if you guys saw there, so I end up stacking, or rather sending Backjack instead, and the stack here doesn't matter since I'm going to be shuffling my deck anyways in the end phase for Skarm, but I do it anyways just to see what we got. But the shuffling the deck thing definitely does matter if you're sending Backjack on your own turn, since you do want to resolve Skarm and Graph as much as possible, so that does mean that your Backjack can sometimes be blind, which is definitely not ideal. But yeah, we just go ahead and set up and search our Graph that we wanted. But unfortunately, not only does he open the MST for his turn to clear my other back row, which was Fiend Grieving, but he has the Pankratops to just go ahead and hit my Wing Blast anyways. So all that talk about me getting value didn't end up doing anything. It was just completely irrelevant, and we just have to rely solely off the back of this Beatrice right here, which Beatrice Pass is one of the best boards in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! But we're going to go ahead and watch as he searches for Ray off the Rhoda here. So, of course, the Striker engine is now online. The Striker matchup for BA is a pretty interesting one because of the fact that if you Farfa timely during your opponent's turn, their Striker links come back in the main monster zone, which cuts off a lot of their back row. That's pretty important to know. And then the other thing is that it can be hard to OTK them because the deck doesn't have a great way to deal with Ray. Sure, you can Farfa their link monsters, but if you can't actually OTK them afterward through Ray, through Kaina, their link monster will just be coming back, and obviously when it returns to the main monster zone during their turn, it doesn't matter because they can just link off. So we do have to be pretty cautious. Now he does reveal that he also has drones in addition to the Ray in his hand. So I think he's trying to get me to use my Dynamiscus, because you saw he actually used Backjack there. Looking back on it, I'm not entirely sure why I opted to use it at that point. I did want to play reactively, but I maybe could have waited for later. Because if I did hit a monster off of that Backjack, that would have definitely not been the greatest, especially if it was like Farfa, because then that would have just entirely been a waste, since that's what I was planning to send off the Beatrice. But yeah, we go ahead and just kind of get lucky there and hit Dynamiscus. I should have realistically held it, since again the Backjack was sort of blind. But he actually goes Kagari to add back the Hornet Drones, and he's going to use the Hornet Drones token again to make Phoenix, and he's going to force my back row right here, and he's going to pitch this copy of Mystic Mine, I'm pretty sure. which is a fine call by him since my deck has a fair amount of outs. Plus, if he does decide to play the game, I'm only sitting on Beatrice anyways. Here, I'm like, do I even use this Dynamiscus? And the answer is yes, because if I leave the Phoenix on board and he normal summons Ray, he can just go into Zeke and force my Beatrice really early. Which, I mean, my Beatrice will be used at some point anyways, but here I might as well get the value off not only the Dynamiscus, but also Graph Summoning Skarm, so I get a guaranteed tour guide in the end phase here. So that is all good and dandy, and I still have my Beatrice up. I know one of the cards in his hand is Ray, and I'm pretty sure he's down to 2 cards, because it was MST, Pankratops, Rhoda, Mine, Hornet Drones, and then the last card you see there is Multi-Roll. Yeah, and speaking of which, I think we were talking about this after the game, where he should have just activated Multi-Roll prior to activating Hornet Drones. I don't think it ultimately would have mattered, because he could like send a card with what's it called, Hayate here, and then like reset it. But I would just had ways to clear the back row. And again, because what I'm gonna do in main phase 2 here after I take some damage with Hayate is I'm gonna just forfeit the Shizuku. It's gonna return to the main monster zone, so any back row that he sets off the multi-roll isn't gonna be alive regardless. So I don't think it would have made a huge difference since I would have just been able to clear the back row as well as the multi-roll eventually. So that would have been pretty good on my end. Yeah, here he sends a card off the Hayate, then goes for Shizuku, and we're going to Beatrice here. Obviously, we do not want the Shizuku to search engage, and also just the interaction is too good, cutting off any possible defensive cards. So we're going to go ahead and add back, I believe that was Graph, and then Skarm is going to trigger in the end phase. And yeah, he wasn't sure if Shizuku still gets a trigger. It does not, because it doesn't actually remember it was special summoned this turn, because it left the field due to Farfa. So that is definitely pretty advantageous for us as well. So yeah, we know that we have potentially one hand trap to work through, but considering that none of our stuff got hand trapped the previous turn, I'm feeling pretty good about this one. Now, the problem again is that Uti King is pretty difficult through Ray and through Kaina, but it's like just Ray Float in general. So I had to figure out a way to clear the striker links, which is hard because a lot of that involves Borosword, just gain the extra attack in, since obviously the BAs are pretty tiny in general, and he has a fair number of spells in his grave. I'm pretty sure he has like 3 of them, or no, he has more than that. He has 5, I want to say, because he has MST, he has Mystic Mine, he has Hornet Drones, and he has Rhoda as well as whatever he sent off Hayate. So that's like 5 spells. So that's quite a bit. And so the BA monsters, of course, are not by themselves going to clear through striker links in most cases. But we go for tour guide for Rhino, and then we make Carabini here, and then we're going to trigger the Rhino. And I believe, actually, if I remember correctly, I drew Libic for turn, and that was not great because my hand at this point is now Graph Libic, and so I want to actually be able to send the Libic off of the Carabini so I can summon from hand, and then kind of help go from there, but that didn't really happen the way I wanted it to, because that way I could have like a BA just sitting on board with its device negated so it wouldn't self-destruct after I link off the Carabini inevitably, but that ended up not happening, so we were kind of just in a bit of a weirder position. I don't know if it would have changed the math. I would have to kind of go back and check again, but in the moment I know that it definitely would have at least been slightly more damage. But yeah, again, it's hard to get a full 8K kind of just from nothing, especially because I used Barbar to make Beatrice in the first place. So the only way to really get it back is if I expend a usage of Seer or Dante on it, and that's not always the greatest. But we're going to go ahead and just special summon Libic via its own effect. After I believe we sent a Skarm off Carabini. So at the very minimum, we do get more follow-up plays, and he's fairly low in resources, so I don't feel too badly about this. And here's like the situation where, of course, if he had like multi-roll with a couple of back row set, he couldn't really activate them due to the way Shizuku's positioned. So I'm able to just kind of pivot my play, and I could have just easily gone for like a Phoenix or like Unicorn or something. But yeah, he actually surprisingly does not use Kaina here. I'm not entirely sure why, but I was trying to set it up in such a way where I attack with Borosword, and no matter what he uses Kaina on, I would be able to clear this the Striker Link monster anyways. It just makes that he took more damage than he had to, but regardless, I had like 3 attacks there to soak up pretty much the Kaina, so was able to just clear the Striker Links in any case. And if you guys noticed, I actually forgot to switch Beatrice to defense position until later, but off Borosword, that is. But we go ahead and grab tour guide in the end phase, and we're just gonna sit in this. We didn't draw back row, so we're again kind of relying off of just Beatrice. And here he draws actually a Widow Anchor. He activates the multi-roll that he kind of revealed from last turn. And then he's going to Widow Anchor, targeting my sword. I actually have a play to make game here, but I wait on Beatrice for specifically if he had Widow Anchor. And here we're going to go ahead and actually send a copy of Seer. And then, the Widow Anchor resolves. It's going to take my sword. But Seer is actually going to bring back the Barbar all the way back from turn 1. And if you guys are noticing my opponent's life points here, that is going to be enough for game. I didn't actually, remove the Barbar to grave because it should have self-destructed right here. But yeah, I was just explaining that, this is going to be game because the Barbar is just going to do enough damage. So yeah, we do in fact take game number 1 here. Barbar really does put in work in these kinds of games. But yeah, we're going to move on into game number 2. So in game 2 here, he's actually going to choose to go first, I'm pretty sure. And that kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. Well, not really, because I think that it's kind of hard for Striker to play through back row sometimes. Like, clearing a field of monsters can be pretty easy for the deck. But I think, unless if the deck draws like specific back row outs, it can be tough at times. But there also is the case we made where you still want to go second as Striker, because a lot of the back row also isn't like super live against Striker. Like, at least the back row that I'm playing, stuff like Torrential, and then Compulse is kind of wonky as well. So, yeah, he's just going to go ahead and go first, however, and he's going to Shizuku set 2 and then search for engage in the end phase, the classic. But yeah, we're just kind of sitting here and we're just going to see how we can break boards, which is still pretty tough because, again, we don't have a great mechanism like Zeus or just, a way into Anaconda to like force, things pretty natively. So we really are just playing off the back of the BA engine in its entirety. Which isn't horrible, but we draw Pankratops, which I think is the first time we actually drew Pankratops the entire series, both on and off camera. So yeah, Pankratops pretty good after the Pankratops from the last game, which definitely did wreck our back row. But yeah, here I'm kind of deciding if it's worth it to attack over Shizuku, and I'm kind of thinking, well, given the hand that I have, I don't think it was going to be likely that I actually clear the Striker links anyways, especially through back row. So I wanted to clear the back row before I made any meaningful plays with the engine, which is why I decided to just go into battle phase and get the damage in while I can, because, again, every bit of damage in control matchups definitely counts. So we're going to go ahead and Pankratops and blind hit a Cosmic Cyclone, which is a big hit for us because we did actually end up drawing an Anti-Spell Fragrance. And so, him having a response to that would have been pretty ideal. That's also something in Striker that I think people should be doing, is like holding the Cosmic Cyclone just for situations like Anti-Spell and Imperial Order post side. Because even though I'm playing a lot of back row, like realistically, if I open one of those cards, it's pretty hard for Striker to win. Whereas, if he holds a Cosmic for his turn, if I don't have like a Floodgate, then he could just clear my back row anyways. If it's like a chainable, like Fiend Griefing, then that does kind of suck, but I think it's worth holding the resource just to have the out to a card that would otherwise be extremely detrimental to the Striker strategy. But yeah, he's thinking for a while here because his other set card is Different Dimension Ground, so he's kind of just deliberating on when he should drop it. And here I kind of make a bit of a strange play where like special both my BAs, but I have a couple of other normal summons. I do have Tour Guide, but obviously he could like Chain Ray, Chain Widow Anchor if he has it, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. I think I also have I'm not sure if I had a Rhino in my hand at this point. I can't quite remember exactly, but yeah, here's another kind of misplay here where it's been a while since people have played against BA cards. So he actually entirely forgot that Dante detaches for cost, or detaches and mills for cost rather. So yeah, that definitely was a bit of a blunder on his end. I decided to let him take it back where he didn't have to activate the DD ground there if he didn't want to. But he kind of throws a Veiler at the Dante, I think out of frustration. But yeah, that's also something kind of to take note of, is that if you realize that like you kind of missed a window, it's really important to kind of just stay focused. I am definitely guilty of this myself, where there are times where you make a misplay, you realize it, and then you kind of just play a little bit on tilt. Try to avoid that as best as you can. I know it's hard, especially like if you are somebody who is pretty self-critical, which I tend to be on myself. So I definitely speak from a place of experience where I've tilted out of events in situations where I could have realistically done reasonably well in, just because like I make one minor misplay, or even if it was a major misplay, things like that do happen. But yeah, I go ahead and actually just steer beam my Skarm and I pass on this because I don't want to waste Graph or Skarm since I special them both. And knowing that he has DD ground, it's arguable that I should have just cleared it using Nightmare Phoenix, but I really didn't want to like burn myself with resources, and I felt safe under anti-spell, so I didn't feel pressured. Here he goes ahead and sets some back row, most likely going to be spells, and he goes into Hayate, so they did not clear the Ray, and then he's going to go and send off with a Hayate here. Again, it doesn't really matter too much to me right here since I don't feel under super immense pressure just because of the fact that anti-spell is going to keep me safe because I got rid of the Cosmic, and I have a couple of turns to kind of help figure my way out of this. Now, to be fair, I really needed to clear the DD ground for that to actually matter because I'm going to be playing under it next turn, and that definitely is not going to be great for me. I probably should have just cleared it while I had the chance. But yeah, again, it's hard because like in this deck, you really need all the value you can get, and I just didn't feel like it was gonna be good enough, to be honest. If I like linked away and then lost my Skarm and my Graph effects, which is definitely a bit tricky to manage, especially like if you have to special them. But yeah, I should have like just normal the Graph in that instance because I didn't use my normal summon at all, so that was definitely a misplay on my part. Kind of realized that at the end too, but he's gonna go for Shizuku. I actually didn't see what he searched there, but I think it was a Shark Cannon. But yeah, he's gonna DD ground me in the Stammer phase here, and this is where it was really detrimental because now I pretty much just can't link anything off. But I also kind of feel pressure to make a play, so I do in fact just give it my Skarm so I can summon Tour Guide and then go for the effect. This way I can at least have some pressure. And I also can't summon Beatrice, not only because I don't have any BAs in my hand, but a DD ground also prevents me from fulfilling Beatrice's summoning condition, because she specifically says that the BA monster has to go to grave before overloading over Dante. So it definitely sucks, for me at least. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and make Equipped Engineer, which has come up a lot, surprisingly. Like, this card has been pretty good in a lot of these games here. I think he only has 2 spells in grave, so we are able to at least clear the Shizuku. Which, I mean, obviously just going to float back in array. I'm just kind of trying to, get in some very minor chip damage. But yeah, Engineer is really our only interruption right now because we're not drawing any back row. We just keep drawing, I'm pretty sure we just keep drawing like rhinos and just things that we can't really make use out of. But yeah, here I'm, again, not feeling too badly about it because of the fact that even though he has engaged right now, we definitely don't feel too bad since obviously whatever he searches can't be used under anti-spell this turn. And the other thing I was thinking about here is I could actually have used Engineer to detach Graph and then Graph summon Hcabe and have it self-destruct and try and 50-50 the engage. That way, if I do hit the engage, he has to reset it again off the anti-spell, and then he's just like really far behind at that point. But I like not to do it, and I decided to just use it as a more defensive metric. But yeah, he has a lot of spells in his hand still, and under anti-spell, he's still playing a fairly slow game, which it's not the greatest to play a super slow game against Striker, but the DD ground definitely threw off some of my plans for sure. I definitely kind of played a little bit wonky as a result of him having like revealed it accidentally in the previous turn, like in the very first turn on my turn. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and proceed here. So at the start of battle phase, I do decide to go ahead and use the Engineer so I can Farfa away the Hayate. That way I could, in case he had any lingering Striker spells, I think he only had one they could use, which is the one he's looking at right there. Yeah, and he's kind of pointing out which ones are new, which ones are old. But yeah, that's just that Shark Cannon there. So yeah, he could have used Shark Cannon at some point here, but there wasn't really anything worth hitting. But now that Hayate is going to come back to the main monster zone in the end phase, I don't have that to worry about either. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. And again, the anti-spell quick play interaction is pretty great for us because he can't use any of the quick plays he sets this turn during my turn because he has to like exactly wait for his next turn to actually make use out of them. But yeah, time is kind of approaching, which is why you might notice we're picking up the pace a bit. And so I do just want to get in as much damage as I can because I am down on life right here. So we do decide to just go ahead and switch Dante's attack. We mill 3 so we can get some extra damage in here. We go ahead and Hcabe, bounce the set, which we know is the older one, just because now it kind of sets him back a turn. Because I saw him looking at it at some points during his last turn, so I wanted to just clear it in case it was a Striker spell they couldn't use right now, which it was. So here we're just going to go ahead and attack into Hayate, getting in the extra damage. It's very, very close to life. pretty much stays within Hayate range the entire time. So really just kind of comes down to if he can Hayate me for game, because I'm not able to actually do too much more damage than this. And I think I still fail to find a BA, which is pretty remarkable. But here I think I'm deliberating on setting a Rhino Warrior right there, which I could have normal summon perhaps, but I just didn't do it. I think I was kind of just trying to play more quickly rather than thinking through my plays, because I could have made efforts to clear the board, but I chose not to. Yeah, I think I definitely could have like linked away Dante plus Rhino into Phoenix, and then Rhino and Dante trigger. I could like Rhino send Seer to bring back Dante, and I could have made Beatrice, because I'm pretty sure I didn't go through Beatrice at all. But yeah, he's going to go ahead and use, however, the Afterburner to pop my Dante and the anti-spell. So now he's actually completely online, and my hands are pretty much tied. But thankfully, he actually also didn't go into kind of their last turn either, which is something that I kind of felt was a bit strange there, because I was prepared to sort of, deal with that if that had to, or if that was the case, right? But ended up not being so. And so he's kind of struggling to find ways to put monsters on board to actually, do enough damage, because this is going to be the last turn. So he is going to Shark Cannon my Dante right here. I do have Backjack, so I'm not feeling in the worst case, because I can just go ahead and use it defensively. But he tries to flip Widow Anchor with his main monster zone occupied, and he realizes he can't. So the game ends up going to us in time. So that is it. All right, so we are back from locals, and in case you guys are wondering how the other matchups today went, round 1 we did win 2-0 against Magical Muskets. That was actually a pretty good match for us. I think the Beatrice and Trap lineup combination in our deck is pretty well favored against the Magical Muskets in general, just as long as they don't open insanely broken or anything, which thankfully for us they did not. Round 3, we actually took the L to Mystic Mind Burn of all decks, unfortunately. We lost the die roll, and we didn't see our outs in game 3. Admittedly, it got pretty salty, but what can you do? Sometimes you just side in all your outs and you don't see enough of them. So that can happen. It's part of the game. And then round 4, we did actually win against Planet Patrol. It went into time because I admittedly do not know what those cards do. But my opponent was very patient and was very much willing to let me read all the cards, which I'm very, very much grateful for. We did win game 1, and then game 2, we're both on full life, I'm pretty sure, because he had a pretty long turn where he could clear my back row, but not my Beatrice, so he wasn't able to actually do any damage. And so that is how that went. So we actually went 3-1 at locals, which we're kind of moving up here. Still, again, a top 4 performance. I actually did remember to take a picture of the standings this time around, so I'll have that for you guys on the screen right here. But yeah, 3rd place, which is not too bad, and we have some good prize support as well. So hopefully we can pull some pretty nice stuff. So we have our entry pack in the OTS 16 right here. And then we have 2 OTS 14s, 2 OTS 15s, and then we have a bunch of King's Court here. We have 4 of them. And I actually goofed because I forgot that my locals makes it so that there's a minimum on payment if you use your credit card to pay for locals. So I actually threw in an extra copy or extra pack of Lightning Overdrive, which is not part of the pricing, but it's part of just what I purchased. So I might as well just throw it in here and add that onto the cost spreadsheet, which again, if you're interested in just specific price breakdowns, you can go ahead and find all that in the description box if you want to see the juicy Google spreadsheet. But let's just not waste any more time and see what we pull for this week. And again, after this, I am just going to be going and recapping basically how I feel about the deck and just individual card choices and how the deck has been performing. So stay tuned, because there's going to be quite a bit left in this video afterwards. So we got Reptilian Hydra, we have Power Filter, and we have... You gotta be kidding me! Oh no! What the heck? Bro, I can't even. There's just no words. I never open sealed product, and this is an entry pack. This isn't even pricing. Oh my god. Actually, now that I remember it, I'm recording this like way after the locals ended, but I remember people were telling me you have a high likelihood of getting the LT because nobody else pulled one. Oh my god. Okay, well, this is getting sleeved right away. I was not prepared for this today. I was not at all prepared for this today. What the heck? All right, we are sleeving this immediately. Oh my goodness. All right, cool. Yeah. So that happened. I have nothing to say. In real life, I'm probably gonna be keeping this. That's a hard statement, man. I don't know. But for this series, that is huge. Oh my god. We could buy basically any individual card that we want. What the heck? Okay, well, I might as well end the video now, but we're not gonna. We have too many more packs to open left over. Jeez, that was just a straight up adrenaline rush. All right, let's go. OTS 15, here we come. Jeez Louise. I'm blown away. Oh, jeez, okay. So OTS 15, number 1, we got the Fam Knights Rank Up Magic launch. We have Raid Raptor Nest, and then we have an Unpossessed. Honestly, it literally does not matter what else we pull here. This right here is fine enough. That is more than fine. We're gonna go ahead and go for pack number 3. Wow. You guys know, if you guys are longtime viewers of my channel, you don't know that, you know that I don't tend to have overreactions. Everything that I do is pretty much genuine. That was actually shock right there. My OTS pack luck is also pretty terrible historically. So, anyways, we got Sheehan Spy, we have Void Ogre Dragon. This is not real. This is not real. I can't. What are these pulls? Okay, well, as I was saying, oh hey, my OTS ulti pack luck is horrible. Just kidding. I guess not today. All right. Well, I can't describe any of this in like words that make any coherent sense. So we're just gonna move on. It speaks for itself. Oh, I'm opening what is this? Oh, that was 14, not 15. I can't even read. That was literally OTS 14. This is 15 right here. My goodness. Wow. Okay. We got Armed Dragon level 5. We have Tri-White. And then we have, hey, Shadow Dragon. We can actually, holo upgrade, which is pretty cool for the series. Also, this didn't get a holo reprint for a long time until this OTS pack. So that's definitely cool. Jeez, OTS 15 number 2 coming right up. There's no way we pull 3 ultis. I'm just going to say that right here. We got TDR, Different Dimension Reincarnation. We have Amorphous Persona. And we have Crossover. Okay, good. I would have actually freaked out even more, obviously, if I pulled the 3rd ulti, but there was no way. All right. Whew, okay. So let's do Lightning Overdrive, even though, again, it wasn't part of our actual prizing. Whoops, my bad. But I do just want to open this one anyways on camera since I don't open packs normally anyways, so I might as well do it here. Whew, oh, goodness. All right, we got 1 Curryway. We got Warrog Generations. We have ZW Pegasus Twin Saber. We have Terrors of the Underroot. We have Dark Infant Adagnister. Cool holo right there. You and I, how do you pronounce this card? And Camo Fright. That is my guess. Amazement Ambassador Bufo. I actually didn't even know this card was part of the Amazement archetype, not gonna lie. Zexel and Trust, and that's it. All right. And now we got 4 packs of King's Court. Wow, this is probably the longest opening ever because I was literally just surprised. I know pack openings should not take very long, but I'm still processing what just happened. All right, Stardust Xiaolong. We have ZW Eagle Claw, ZW Leo Arms, Gravekeeper Spy. Hey, that's cool for goats. Utopia Ray, number C39. ZW Ultimate Shield. There's a lot of ZW cards in this pack. And Rose Princess as our super. We got another pack of King's Court right here. So let's go ahead and crack this open. We got another Gravekeeper Spy. We have Rhoda, Ties of the Brethren, the Wicked Avatar, another Utopia Ray, Rivalry of Warlords, and a Face Card Fusion. Pack number 3 for King's Court. I remember actually a lot of people were opening this, just opening spare blisters, the day of the locals, and people were opening broken, so I don't expect to get anything insane here, but I mean, I don't care at this point, given how well the OTS packs went. The Wicked Avatar, we got ZW Eagle Claw, we have Rescue Rabbit, Infinite Cards. I actually don't even know what's in the set, so I'm literally, this is the first time I'm seeing these cards in these packs, but ZW Leo Arms, Rivalry, and an XC's Hypercannon, or XYZ Hypercannon actually, because that's where the XYZ machine stuff. Anyways, last pack. Wow, I lost all of what I was gonna say about my deck because my mind is just totally scattered right now. We got Golden Eye's Idol. We have ZW Ultimate Shield. We have Rescue Rabbit. We have the Wicked Dreadroot, Consular Ptolemy M7. We have Stardust Xiaolong and Crystal Girl. Hey, this card searches the Great Emperor Penguin, I'm pretty sure, right? This is the one? Yeah, it is the one. It's not very good at doing it, but it does do it. So, those are our packs. We have Ulti Nibiru and Ultimate Droplet. That's a lot of money going into the series. Hey guys, it's Editing Emanon here, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually don't know how much I really want to include these cards in the series budget. I know it kind of defeats the purpose, right? Because like whatever I pull should be included, but this is an anomaly, right? This is extremely unlikely to actually happen. So for the purposes of remaining realistic, I'm not sure if we should make any modifications because this totals out to be a huge sum of money, which will greatly accelerate the pace of the series. And that's not entirely bad, but let me know in the comments below if I should make any adjustments for this extremely, rare case. But yeah, let's continue with the video. And I don't know what to do with these in real life. I will figure that out at a later time. Let's go and just talk about the deck. So, yeah, I guess we'll just pull out our deck right here. All right, I'm just not even going to edit any of this because this is too funny. Oh my goodness. All right. So the deck, I think, first I just want to talk about overall perceptions or overall kind of takeaways, things that I have been thinking about with this build. So I think this build actually is pretty good for what it is. And what I mean by that is that I think the main deck especially is pretty functional and not too far off of what a realistically competitive build could be. Keep in mind that a lot of the budget cards that are in here are not simply just subpar cards, although, obviously they are not going to be, the most ideal. But these are competitive cards that would have been like really meta defining a couple of years ago, right? So, kind of speaking from that angle, I think that the cards that I'm playing with, things like, Compulsory Evacuation Device, Breakthrough Skill, like even Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, like these are all cards that are definitely serviceable for what they're trying to do in the deck. And I think the main deck has been treating me quite well. Where I'm having the most difficulty is in the side deck right now because it's so hard to make a side deck that, goes through small amounts of changes because of the fact that I think the side deck is, at least the way I view it, is usually just a bigger package where you have certain cards that fulfill specific roles, things like back row hate, things like just generic cards for going second. Depending on how you want to build your deck, of course, for locals, I think it's a bit more forgiving, but if you're trying to build for like a specific metagame, you have to account for all the different matchups that you might come across, and if you're going first or if you're going second. So that's difficult to achieve in a very limited pool of resources. But let's go ahead and just talk about the cards individually, I suppose. So kind of going back through the deck in order. So starting things off, we got the 3 Tour Guide. This card, really not much to say about it. It's been performing about as well as one would expect. I actually go through all 3 copies a lot in a lot of these games. So having all these as a power play is really good. It's super important to have this as a push because, again, our base win con is Carabini into Borosword, which this card does pretty much by itself, provided you have at least some graveyard setup for a Seer. So this card, obviously not much to say about it. Same deal with the Rhino Warrior. This card might get worse. I haven't actually been running into too much Veiler or Imperm as of yet, but I think as those cards tend to pick up in popularity, you have to be more careful with this card because obviously if they Veiler or Imperm this, then your BAs just die, and that's not really good. But it is one of the cards that gets a lot of value, just on its own. So I think it's still worth playing, especially because, the deck really doesn't have too many starters, even in a fully fleshed out BA build. So I think having these just maxed out is pretty good. And then for the graph, this probably is actually the best card in the monster lineup as far as just being reliable. This card surprisingly doesn't get ashed very often, which I thought it would a lot more, but I find that like things like my Foolish get ashed or my Beatrice gets ashed. Obviously Troy Guy gets ashed, but this card actually surprisingly doesn't get hit too badly, which is very nice for sure. But yeah, not too much to say about this card. We got the Skarm up next. Skarm has been very good as well because the games do go on for a long time. Even though I tried very hard since week 2 to really make sure the build would be good, at not going into time too often. You saw in the Striker matchup as well, right? Like there's some matchups where you're gonna go into time regardless because this deck is grindy, and then other decks like that deck are pretty grindy as well. So it's like those games where having the multiple copies of Skarm is nice because, like, theoretically, right, you could recur everything back with Seer and just have them self-destruct to get their effects, but every time you do that, you lose out on a Dante recycling ability, which is pretty important because of the amount of discard traps we have, things like that, and like stuff like Nightmare Phoenix as well. So I think this card really is great to have at 3 in this bit of a slower build. The Trap BA build is slower as is, but since we don't have like Dragoon to pressure and like push damage every turn, we kind of need to have things like Skarm. Farfar, on the other hand, I think I said this since week 1 that this is a card that could realistically be cut to 2, and I think we're getting closer and closer to that point. If it comes up pretty rarely to the fact that I need these specifically in my deck. Now, to be fair, opening this card and putting it under Beatrice has been very good because we've been doing the high value Beatrice play a lot, where we don't really go for like Link 2 plus Beatrice, obviously for lack of IP, but also because of the fact that, you know, having the high value Beatrice is really good because it does dodge Ash, it dodges Nibiru, stuff like that. So for those purposes, this card's good, but also like Rhino and Graph serve similar purposes. So cutting down on one of those isn't horrible. I think just, clogging on too many monsters isn't ideal either. There's a lot of cases where I just draw too many monsters, and this definitely does kind of contribute to that. So that's something, again, that I think I will reasonably cut down on soon. So we got 2 copies of Seer. I've honestly missed the third a couple of times, more than I thought I would, which is weird because like when I play my normal BA build, with like the Dragoon package and stuff, I don't really miss the third copy of this. But again, because we're so grindy in this deck, there are times where just the third one can come up. If you're managing your resources optimally, in the ideal cases, it shouldn't matter, and it really hasn't impacted the deck to the point where I think that I would really significantly try and move things around to fit the third copy. But it is worthy to note that, yes, sometimes I do miss a third, but overall, I think that I would rather just not see this in my opening hand and also just not have to rely on instances where I just manage my resources worse than I definitely could be. So I think having the 2 is totally fine. And then the one of BAs, the utility stuff, so the Alec, the Barbar, the Hcabe, and the Libic, all have come up. Libic has been coming up less and less, which is kind of surprising because this card used to come up a ton. But as I've been, just using Carabini for all my pushes, really it doesn't matter since Carabini protects your BAs anyways. In cases where I guess I find myself not having Carabini, but still want to make a push with, say, like a Beatrice on board, this definitely can help. But the primary way you're sending it is with Carabini, so it kind of puts you in an awkward position unless if like you start out with Tour Guide to summon this, or like summoning Rhino or something like that. So Libic has actually been less impactful than I thought, which is interesting because there were times I played actually 2 copies of it. But all the other BAs have definitely been coming up. They're also nice, Alec and Hcabe especially, to have as just free side outs because of the fact that, again, sometimes you clog on monsters, so sliding one out is not too bad. Like if you're in a monster heavy matchup and you don't need Hcabe, then that's a good target to just get out of your deck. So I do like that. We got the Backjack. This card has been a standout. It honestly has been hitting very poorly for me throughout the entire series so far. There's so many times I just hit 3 monsters, and that's again kind of a reason why I want to try and maybe slim down the monster lineup a little bit here. But really no complaints about this card. Sending out Beatrice is insane. Sending out Fiend Griefing. This card has been as good as one would expect, I think. And then Foolish Burial, this has easily been the weakest card in the deck, and is one that I'm probably going to take out next week. It's not that this card is bad, it's just that when you use your graph effect after using Foolish Burial, it makes it so that you miss out on the body, which might not seem like much, but every resource matters in this deck. So as opposed to like normal summoning Graph or summoning Rhino, things like that, you have the body on the field before you eventually move the Graph to the grave, whether you detach it or link it away or whatever. And Foolish Burial just kind of, it makes it so you don't get the extra value. It also hasn't come up to where I've sent a Backjack or a Shadal monster yet. So, I think that we can kind of exclude those very niche scenarios where that might come up. It happens. It's something that I think is a good card in a starter build, but I think that we can move away from it pretty soon. And it also will help if we do want to main deck Imperial Order, which I'm pretty close to doing, which I'll talk about a little bit later. That's it for, again, monsters and the 1 spell card. Talking about the traps here, Fiend Griefing has been exceptional. We're back in a bit of a graveyard-centric format, so it's nice to just shuffle stuff away. It's like super good against Alistair, super good against, just Eldritch cards, or Eldritch himself, I guess. And just random things that you want to hit, even if like you end up hitting a hand trap, just to fuel your engine, sending a Skarm or a Backjack, then like that's totally fine. This card is like more engine cards, so I do like that. And again, more reasons why we can maybe slim down on the monster count a little bit. And then we have maybe the most surprising card as far as what I'm going to say here, and that's the Torrential Tribute, which has been underperforming. It's really weird to say. Part of it is that I think I've been drawing it less than other cards, which is fair because of the fact that for a while I've been playing just 2 copies of it to start since it didn't fit in the initial budget. But that being said, I still think even the times I do draw it, it's not amazing. There's a lot of decks. You can think of things like Striker, obviously like Eldritch. Any other deck that can maybe play Torrential, it's not great against for sure. But going second, because we don't have Strike yet, especially, it definitely is hard to kind of like have that combo where this card plus one of those would be great going second. Part of that's because of the fact that we dropped the Lost Wind from the list, so there's like less negation. But most people would just play the Strike as a negation as well, like as the only negation card to pair with the Torrential, I should say. So it's not like they're playing Torrential plus Imperm plus Strike, which would make the chances of seeing one of those negation cards alongside Torrential higher. I mean, it's kind of wonky for sure. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna cut it just yet, but this card is definitely, I'm taking a look at this card and I really am reconsidering as far as how good it actually is, this current format. So that's definitely pretty interesting. Definitely is good against the Rogue matchups. I will say this card really is great against Rogue. Against meta decks, not as much, I don't think. And then next up, we got the Paleozoic Dinomischus. This card's been exceptionally good. Its versatility is unmatched, I think, in the trap lineup, besides Fiend Griefing. But this card being able to hit, a lot of problem cards is super good. Hasn't come up yet where I've discarded a Should All monster for effect, but I have a feeling it will come up because of the fact that I just have a propensity to draw my bricks. So that happens. Also, the Grave effect to put itself onto the field has been pretty good. It doesn't get in the way too much because we have Beatrice on board anyways usually, so it's like the BAs are going to self-destruct regardless. So just having the extra body is nice. I would maybe consider Link Spider for this, but because we're not running Verite Anaconda, I don't really feel like having this versus an effect monster would matter too much. So I think that's fine. And then we got the 2 copies of Wing Blast. Honestly, this card has been one of my favorite cards as well. Just pairing with Dinomischus, having discard traps has been great because there's so many times where you want just one more interruption. So it makes it so that like if you do end on like Beatrice, like with not great materials, like maybe you open like Alec Hcabe plus Skarm, right? Like those are fine, but like you really want to just be able to pitch something of higher value. And like say like you open really bad and just open like 3 of the special BAs, none of which are Farfa, like the one of BAs. You could like detach the Dante off of your Beatrice, you can like add something back and then pitch it for the Wing Blast, and then that allows your Beatrice to send Backjack instead, which is pretty nice. So I do like that this card fits in pretty well with the deck, all things considered. And then we have the Compulsory Evacuation Device. This card has been pretty interesting. It's another one of those situations where I think it's sort of similar to Torrential, where I think it's like probably better against a lot of the rogue decks, to be honest. Against meta, it doesn't do enough. It's not like high impact enough, but I like the flexibility of this card to where I would consider still keeping it around. And also, one thing that you'll notice again is that we're still not on Trap Trick yet, which is something I do want to fix, and I'm probably going to include Trap Trick in next week's build. So when that does happen, I will definitely be reconsidering again all my trap lineup because incidentally, every single one of these traps is still a normal trap, so it's nice to be able to get everything that I need. But it's like, how good is this card getting off of Trap Trick versus other cards in this deck? I think it's a pretty good one for sure because it's reactive, it's chainable, and you can like, kind of freely use it. It doesn't rely on like, specific timings most of the time. So I think this card is definitely pretty solid. And then rounding it out, we got the silent MVP, I guess, which is Breakthrough Skill. This card negating Winda has come up multiple times, which is surprising, but it's definitely enough. I think that interaction alone is enough to definitely keep it in for a while, simply because of the fact that this deck has a hard time against Winda. So I think that this card might stay in the build for longer than I anticipated. I don't think it'll stay in here for the entirety of the series, but it's lasted longer than I thought, and it'll continue to be in here for at least the next couple of weeks. So that's shout out to Breakthrough Skill for being the, again, kind of a silent killer. But let's go ahead and move on into the extra deck. There's not too much to say about this extra base. We can talk about it a little bit. We got 2 Dante. The third hasn't really come up since week 1. Like there was only one time in week 1 where I needed it to push damage, but ever since we got Borosword, that hasn't really been an issue. So haven't missed the third one. This has been great. We have the 1 copy of Beatrice. She's done everything I've wanted her to do, and she's been floating a lot more lately, which is great because people aren't really as afraid to kind of deal with the purple Dante since there's more outs to it, which is fine. It means that purple Dante's not staying on the field nearly as long, but even if it stays in the field for just one turn, cycling through a BA to get a draw into a trap, that definitely can make the difference. So I do definitely like that. But yeah, she's been very, very good, of course. We have the Break Sword, which I haven't summoned too much. I will say I have actually used this with the Carabiner interaction a couple of times, where you put it in a zone where Carabiner points to, and then it just can't destroy itself, which is great for kind of linking stuff up. You can do cool plays where it's like if you say sent away a graph to summon out Carabiner, and then like put a seer under this, and then like once you link away the seer, you can like bring back a Dante in attack position with Borosword, and that can help make games sometimes. So it's nice. Obviously, like it doesn't really matter too much at that point, whether you have it underneath or whether you don't. But just like for follow-up plays, that's a thing that could be relevant. But overall, I think this card has been pretty good. It's just been a nice, decently generic card. We have the Acid Golem, which I have yet to summon. I am holding out hope, but yeah, just in the cases where Dragoon has hit the field, it hasn't been like turn 1 specifically. And I find that if your back row is kind of congested with spell and traps, you can't summon your BAs, like you can't special your BAs, obviously. So it gets harder to summon this card. And in cases other than exactly Dragoon, I don't really see this card really being that useful. So this is a card that I might cut. Again, right now, I don't have a great out to Dragoon in general, so I will be keeping it in until I can like really just make sure that I have realistically like the Zeus package fully online and incorporated. But yeah, this card is fine. It hasn't been summoned yet, though. What has been summoned, however, a lot has been Equipped Engineer. This card has been crazy for some reason. I kind of put it in here at the beginning because when I was starting the series off, I was really just looking at older BA builds, just spanning all the way back from 2014 through like 2020. And then I came across again, it was Noah Green's ARG list from I want to say 17. This was in the middle of full power spiral format the first time. And he played this card in his list, and he said that like there are times where obviously when your Beatrice gets cleared, you need to interrupt your opponent. And that was my basic logic. But this card has been, doing that plus more. Just the fact that you can protect your own stuff to make it so that you don't, you don't lose is pretty important because it makes it so that your Toy Guide follow-up gets even better. So this card has been pretty solid for sure. I really do like this card a lot. We'll be staying in the build for a fair amount of time. We got Gravity Controller for the links. This really has only had the purpose of linking away Dante when I open up Seer and when I open up like really awkward hands. It hasn't come up with like the Shadal Fusion tech yet, which I'll get more into with the Shadal Fusion specifically in the side deck. But again, if you like put App Clone in the extra monsters, then you can just link it off. That way, you can trigger your App Clone if you want to at any point. So cool incidental synergies, but haven't actually used its on-field effect yet. We have Janitor, which we've had to summon just because we needed a link to. That's what happens when you open just Tour Guide or just Graph plus BA or just Rhino plus BA. So yeah, has the switching effects come up yet? No. It really just hasn't, because the thing is, because obviously the BAs destroy themselves, and this doesn't actually protect them from destroying themselves. It only protects from destruction of your opponent's card effects. It makes it so that you realistically can only put like a Dante or another extra deck monster to the zone it points to in order to get the swap off. So in those cases, it like if you can summon that many times, you're probably already in a good spot. So she's really just there as a link to. Really needs to be an IP or a Verite soon. Next up, we got the Carabini. I made this pretty much every game. This card is extremely, extremely good. Just being able to toolbox literally everything. Should be a good card. Not much to say. We got Nightmares here. I've actually not made these cards too often, which is a little bit surprising maybe. I think Unicorn more so I haven't made because, one, we're not playing Masquerena, and two, if we make this with like Carabiner plus a monster, we don't have access code to push into. We do have the Zero Boros right here, which is fine, but a lot of times we're just going for Borosword. So this has largely been kind of obsolete, I will say. There was the one time in that one episode, I believe it was episode 3, I think, where this card definitely would have been the difference maker if I did summon it, like if I summoned it in the chance that I could have to clear like a whole Eldritch field. So I want to keep it in there for those purposes, but this actually could be a Trisbana, and that would pair nicely with Masquerena to kind of help beat backer matchups. So look for that as potential future change, because I think that Trisbana obviously is easier to summon in a lot of cases. But yeah, these cards have been pretty decent utility cards. And then we got Borosword, which we make every game that we're winning, which is great because I don't think there has been really any time besides episode 1 where we've won without this card. So yeah, this card has been instrumental. And then we got the Fusion Dante, which I think we summoned like I want to say 3 or 4 times throughout the series so far, which has been great. And that has been, no complaints there. Very, very nice. This card is great just to cycling and getting through 2 traps, which is pretty important. And then finally, we got the App Clone, which I'll just kind of throw the Shadal package or the Shadal Fusion in here with it, which is in the side deck. So we haven't actually summoned or activated Shadal Fusion besides that one test match against my friend Nick. So at locals, it didn't come up at all this week. And so I'm now kind of like debating and reconsidering if I really want to play this. I thought, it's going to be a huge waste of money, but I guess according to our polls today, it's not going to be as much of a factor. But I will say that this card it seems more cute than actually good. It's cool for sure, especially because we are already citing the Shadal monsters being Dragon and Ariel. And these have actually been good by themselves. Ariel being sent off Beatrice, Dragon being sent off Beatrice. Those have definitely come up, and I do think that they are good enough to warrant their own slots, but Shadal Fusion, I'm feeling less so. Really, I just need better overall Go second cards, and it's kind of hard to incorporate those into this deck just because there's not a lot of board breakers natively since we don't have Zeus yet, and that's why I really am kind of pushing the fact that we probably should just get Zeus. Depending on how much all these cards amount up to, I'll have to check the total. I didn't do the math, obviously, because I'm literally just still recording this, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. As a Go second option, it's not a bad one, but I think we could make more effective use of the side deck for sure. Just more targeted hate towards certain matchups. And then that's it for the extra deck, and then 5 cards of our side deck. And then let's just wrap with the side deck, because I now realizing that I've rambled on way too long. So we got Lava Golem here. This card has been not very good, I'm going to be honest. I actually think Kaiju straight up are just better right now, because your opponent doesn't really have to commit too much to the field, since a lot of decks really are just aiming to focus on the follow-up as much as their end board. You can think of decks like Tri Brigade and even Drytron and Virtual World as well. Like all those decks, like they put up formidable first turn boards, but really their strength lies in the fact that their follow-up is searchable and it's pretty much just guaranteed. And Lava Golem, it hurts you in the sense that a lot of your cards are actually pretty normal summon reliant, Rhino and Torghite especially, but even Graph, when you open it, and Seer, you don't really want to be specialing those cards in a lot of cases. It's fine if you special them if they amount to like a Fortune Tune for Zeus or a Verite Anaconda, but we don't have those options, so we do need to make use out of those BA effects as much as we can. We can't do that when we relinquish our normal summons, so I think that this has been decent in concept, but in practice, I think that I would probably pivot towards Kaijus, definitely. Something to kind of think about, I guess, in the realm of Kaijus, while we're at it here. So there was actually a time where I played like a full Kaiju package, like way back. I think it was like 2018 when I played BA. I've been playing this deck for a while throughout many formats, so kind of just speaking from personal experience. So like there were times when I would put in like the Kaiju Slumber package because you can send Slumber off Beatrice. I'm not sure if I would actually do that here. I'm not sure how good that actually is, but it's a consideration. Also, the specific Kaijus kind of matter because the Wind one is good in like niche scenarios where obviously like your opponent puts up the Wind Barrier statue, but that's been less popular lately. But Godarla is good not only for like those purposes, but also because it's 2700, meaning that you can do things like crashing Beatrice into it because she's 25, and then you can summon that Purple Dante, which is 28, and then get over the Godarla, because there are times where you do want to crash your own Beatrice. So that's like something that comes up, but obviously Gamma Seal is like the one that Dante can hit over as well. So, just kind of all sorts of considerations for which Kaijus I want to play. But yeah, Lava Golem probably not going to stay in the build for too much longer. We have Pankratops. This card's hard to evaluate because I just don't seem to draw this card. Obviously, it's a one-of, so it doesn't really happen that much. But I mean, it doesn't really conflict with the BA stuff. It's good going second against a lot of matchups, so probably just going to keep it in. I think it's good. And then we got the traps, which are also like a lot of backer hate. So we got Storm Duster. I dropped the third one last week into this week, and I might put the third one back in. I think it would be more defensible at 2 if I had Trap Trick, especially just to be able to access it. But I mean, I don't know if I'm like jaded by bias towards the fact that I just didn't draw it in the Mystic Mine matchup, but I think that it would have helped to have some more outs, but I really shouldn't let that, or like one singular instance, influence my deck building that much. So I'm just gonna say that variance happens. So I think that this is fine at 2, especially again if we have Trap Trick. So we'll just kind of see what happens, where the build goes from here. I will say I've been kind of debating on like how good this is in comparison to other back row removal options, things like Cosmic Cyclone and Twin Twisters. Also, there's like no Harpy's Feather Duster in this deck, which might change based on how this week went. But yeah, I think this is fine. I'm not really sure if it's going to be the back row hate of choice moving forward, but it is something to certainly consider. And then we got the anti-striker cards. So we got the Anti-Spell and the Imperial Order. These cards have been fine so far. Anti-Spell is pretty good in this deck. The one thing I will say about Floodgates and BA is that it makes it so you can't special the BAs from your hand, which definitely can interfere at times. Go back to like Set Rotation when that was at 3 and your opponent gave you a field spell and you just couldn't summon your BAs. That definitely was annoying, but yeah, these cards are really good. Obviously, with the order, I might move to the main deck because if I'm cutting Foolish Burial, I'll actually just be maining 0 spells. So that probably is something that I'll do, especially if the meta game at my locals gets more spell heavy. Not sure if I'll make the change as early as next week, but it could be coming in the not too distant future. Anti-Spell, on the other hand, has been quite good. I haven't really done the Anti-Spell Calcap combo yet, but that's definitely something to kind of think about. And this as well as Shaddoll Dragon, like all those cards together kind of help ease the back row matchups. Since again, the engine has a little bit of a worse time against back row, not too much, but it definitely can if you don't really actively prepare for it. So that's what these are here for. So that is it for kind of the big status report of where my deck is at right now and what changes I would consider making moving forward. I hope you enjoyed this ASMR if you guys are kind of just listening and not watching, because you don't really have to actively watch the section, I'll be honest. But okay, I still cannot believe that we pulled these 2 cards right here. That is remarkable. They're not even in the center of frame. Good job, me. I am very, very good at this, but yeah, we're gonna have to figure out what to do with these cards in the budget. So stay tuned for next week because there's a lot of planning for me to do, and that is gonna be something else. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like as well as any thoughts or feedback in the comments. Subscribe for more informative and competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content. If you want to, you can follow me on all social media platforms or support me with links in the description as usual. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video. See you guys.